Make sure I'm saying correctly.
Yes, my name is Rahul.
Rahul.
Yep,
Okay.
Rahul. Yeah, with
All
an
right.
L at the end.
Well, tell me a little bit about you and what you do and what got you as far as to this journey of where you are now.
Okay. Well, it's a long story because, as you can see, I have plenty of gray hair. I got excited by science back in 1969 when, in July, I watched the moon landing and I heard those infamous words, or famous words, I should say, of Neil Armstrong. And I turned to my father, who was with me at the time, and asked him what did Neil Armstrong do in order to become the first man on the moon? And he said, oh, he's a scientist. Well, that's not totally accurate. Neil Armstrong was a test pilot, not really a scientist, but nonetheless, it sparked my curiosity. And many others in my generation got sparked by that, by that momentous event that happened at that time and got into science. And I became a scientist. And for years, that's all I did. And at one point in time, I started in my career volunteering for the Alumni Association of the place where I got my PhD from, which is Yale University. And in doing so, I started meeting people that were not scientists. And I realized that I was actually a very extroverted person, not an introverted scientist. And what gave me the maximum amount of joy was actually being around people and interacting with people and doing things for people. I sort of was in my career as a scientist doing precisely that by researching problems that have been plaguing mankind that could help mankind, but in a more abstract way. Working on the nuclear fusion research that I did, I would certainly be helping because if fusion does become a way in which we can generate limitless power, it is going to be helpful for all mankind. But it's going to take a long time to get there, maybe well past my lifetime. And so I figured I needed to make a change. I needed to do something different. And I was just thinking about that when an opportunity presented itself. A friend who was working to raise money for an organization called Butterflies in India contacted me and said, hey, I have a video that I have received from India with what I consider a very poor translation. Can you help me? And I said, sure, I can help listen to the video and to see if your translation is good. And I discovered it wasn't the best. So I helped him with the translation. And at the end of it, he turns to me and says, I need a narrator for this video. And I like the sound of your voice. Will you narrate the video for me? Well, that was 10 years ago. And 10 campaigns later, I'm still the voice of Butterflies. In the
Okay.
meantime, I wound up joining the board and have now become the president of the board.
Okay.
That little step that I took to go beyond my comfort zone for doing something that I had never done before. I've never acted briefly when I was in high school, but a high school play, that's nothing major. I, of course, have given scientific talks. So I've spoken in front of crowds, but I've never done anything like narrating a video before. And this was a completely different start of a new journey. And that got me into working with the other organization that I help, which is Amandla, which is in South Africa, in Cape Town, outside of Cape Town in the township of Philippi. That was a mutual friend who introduced us, the founder of that organization, and I. And he came to San Francisco, talked to me about how to set up an organization that raises money in the US for work that is being done outside the US. And at the end of that meeting, he turns to me and says, well, would you consider starting this organization with me? Since you've told me so much, but I know I'm never going to be able to do it as well without a partner like yourself. I said, sure. And that between those two things, I wound up deciding, okay, my focus is now going to be philanthropy, not science anymore. And
Okay.
I moved into philanthropy. So that's kind of where I've been for the past several years. And then last year, in December, somebody contacted me on LinkedIn and said, hey, I read your bio, and I see you've made this incredible shift from being a scientist to being a philanthropist. And there'd be other people who might be interested in your story. Have you ever considered writing a book? And I said, no, I haven't. And they responded back and said, why not? Which made me think, why haven't I done it? And here we are, about a year later, the book is going to be published in December of this year.
Okay,
Thank
congratulations.
you. And that's why I'm here to to one, tell my story, to help people understand that if you want to make a change, it doesn't have to be daunting. It doesn't have to be something which is life-threatening. It can be life-changing.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And that from someone that went from doing early childhood education
Mhm,
to getting hurt in 1998 in two car accidents back to back to multiple slip and falls to not being able to walk to going through this journey of,
mhm,
having these medical issues and
mhm.
not being able to get any answers. Like you go to the
Right.
doctor and you're like, well, just take a pill.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
Still
and
have
everything's gonna get fixed. It won't.
no. And you're sitting here like, I'm having chronic pain. And a friend of mine named Charles Maddox, who does this, he does this actual website called Revoke TV.
Mhm,
And he does these documentaries about CRPS. His
mhm,
mother actually has CRPS and they had cancer and they went to Mexico. Went to Mexico and came back cancer free. No chemotherapy, nothing.
mhm,
Just changing their diets, add dieting, exercise, and doing these natural ways of healing cancer. It
mhm,
did come back. And so going to the doctor and them telling me, well, we don't know what's going on. We can't find anything. And then 10 hours later, with my mom and my son, they're taking me to another hospital. They're saying, no, you have two bulging discs in your back and
mhm,
then going through, in and out the hospital, have emergency gallbladder surgery because they never check my gallbladder. You go to a new doctor, they don't do a thorough overall
yep.
examination like they do in Turkey. Whereas Turkey, they do a whole thorough everything, tell
Yep.
you everything that's wrong with you, so you know how to treat yourself. You
Exactly.
go into the grocery store, you're finding all these chemicals in your foods that basically are causing these issues, and it's just
Mhm,
like this journey just led me to becoming a coach because of not having answers.
mhm. Well, that's actually very true. And I think it's the system that we have for medicine in the US is broken. And something needs to be done because doctors are not spending time with patients because they're being told by the insurance companies we won't pay for more than 15 minutes. Well, you tell me if I'm going to see a doctor once every year, if I'm lucky, maybe once every 2 years, how are they going to find out what's happening to me in 15 minutes?
Exactly.
Right.
Abs-
And just because I have a pain in one part of my body, that is just a symptom. What's the underlying cause of that? It could be somewhere else.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
people who are in sports medicine recognize this. If you have a pain in your foot, it may not be because the problem is in your foot. It might be because the problem is in your calf. It could be a problem in your hip.
Yeah.
And just to try to treat that pain in the foot, just because that's all it is, oh, let me see what I can do to fix that, give you a pain pill, that creates another problem, which is potential addiction to that pain pill.
Yes.
And we've seen what's happened with that. I mean, we talk about the drug epidemic. Well, a lot of it is manufactured.
Yes.
People didn't wind up just suddenly one fine day wake up and say, "Oh, let me go get some illegal drugs."
No.
Nobody does that.
No. And then exactly with anxiety, the first thing they want to do when you're a therapist, they give you these medications for anxiety. My son has autism, has had autism for almost 30 years. And I remember they told me, we want to put him on Ritalin. I said, no,
No.
we're not doing that. I said, I will work on the behavior. That was one of the first things that I worked on was his behavior. And I worked on consequences, repercussions, and karma because I said, he's not going to understand the world the way that I do. And I said, let me work on that. And my son was actually nonverbal and now he
Mhm.
talks now.
Well,
But
there you
that
go.
was because I didn't put that label on him as autism.
Yep.
I told my family, do not put that on him. I said, we know what he has, but we're not going to put that on him. And then them pushing them through school and no education, no life training. But then I started looking at my sister's kids and I said, well, wait a minute. Why can't we take these same things that we're teaching our children with autism
Hmm.
because their minds and their brains are not on the same level, which in terms had me thinking when I had the anxiety and I couldn't drive. And I
Hmm.
said, why is it that I can't drive all of a sudden because I got hit in the back of the neck?
Yes.
And the doctor said, no, because you're having tunnel vision. Your eyes and your brain and your body is not connecting. You don't think something is wrong mentally, but your body doesn't understand that. And
Right.
I had to learn to speak out loud and talk to my body and say, look, we got to get from here to here. You're going to have to work with me here. Y'all,
Yep.
you two got to work together. And I noticed that's how I started overcoming the anxiety because I kept saying, we got to get through this through connection of both. And
Right.
sometimes we do these mental things where we get in these relationships, go through these abusive relationships, and we're trying to look for love so bad, but we're not looking at the spiritual damage that we're
Right.
going through because you're dating someone that the higher power didn't even bring into your life, but you're chasing behind them because society's telling you, go chase behind this person, go get this person, go do this, go do that. And I'm like, but you're putting everything in front of us that represents everything that goes against it. So how can people do right when there's so many negative influences and manipulations and people being bamboozled and being scammed?
It's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. And, if you think of food that we all go and buy at the grocery store, particularly the stuff that's processed, if you look at the label, almost every single one of them, the first ingredient, which is a pretty large fraction, sugar. We
Yes.
don't we don't need sugar in a salty snack. We don't need sugar in our dinners or lunches. Why is it there? It's there because it gets you to eat more.
Yes. That dopamine, hitting
And
that
you eat more.
dopamine.
So you eat more, which means instead of buying the one product, you buy two of them. Then you want it more. You go to the third. It's getting you addicted to it.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely no reason for it to be there.
Yeah.
Because if you
I
make
agree.
it, if you make any of that from scratch in your own home, you're never going to add sugar into it.
You know what? And that is so true because now you can make bread without yeast. And you can basically make these same desserts and still
Yep.
make them with the same, like when I go to the store, I get the raw sugar. I don't get the bleached sugar. I don't get the distilled water anymore because it has chlorine in it. And
Yes.
people are wondering, I said, well, 20 years ago, people weren't getting, about 40 years ago, people weren't getting colon cancer. Breast cancer was a thing, but never colon cancer, never having all
No.
these issues where you had to get a colonoscopy. And then now people are getting colonoscopies in their 30s now,
Right.
some
It's
even in their
almost necessary.
20s.
Yep. It's frightening. And I had a friend that got diagnosed with colon cancer a few years ago in April, and by August he was dead.
Mhm.
I mean, March he was fine. He got a stomach ache in April, wasn't going away. He went to the doctor. The doctor said, "No, no, you got to come in. We can't do this on a video call." Went in. Next thing you know, he has colon cancer and couldn't beat it because it was so far gone.
Because we don't get tested for it because they don't do these
Nope.
thorough examinations because like you said the insurance company only going to pay for 15 minutes. Like I do medical billing in my second part of my life,
No.
and I we can't even talk to the doctors. We can't even talk to them about, claims that
Yes.
are like not where it's not covered because of the provider's plan as far as their credentialing or because of the patient's what their coverage is. Um, they'll say, well, we're supposed to get more money. Their insurance company saying, well, their discounted rate is 0%. And I said, well, why is it 0%? Because they never established what the percentage would be because of their credentials are only for this particular service, not
Mhm.
for radiology, not for MRIs. Because back in the day, the MRI person would be the person that would read you your
Yes.
results when
Right.
you went. Now the doctors do it, but they're not getting paid for it.
That's right. That's right. And that just sets up the cycle
Mhm.
of all this behavior from the medical professionals, which actually then influences the individuals, our behavior, because we don't want to go see a doctor unless it's absolutely necessary, because what are you going to learn?
Mhm.
And then people will not go to the doctor when they should, which means whatever little chance they had of catching something early just went away.
Which is why millions of people are dying because their cancer has spread to the point where they only have 2 weeks, which
There's not,
happens to a friend of mine. Yeah.
right? Nothing can be done about it at this point. Because that's one of the things with cancer in particular. It can be a very silent killer because oftentimes it doesn't present symptoms like, it's not obvious that there's a particular type of pain that'll happen or a particular type of debilitation that's going to come up. And
Yeah.
when you get that, oftentimes it's a little too late to do anything about it.
That is true. And that's the thing that happened to a friend of mine. She was going to the doctor because she was half blind and half deaf. Going and they never tested her for cancer. They only test what you're going to tell them that is wrong versus them saying, let me go thoroughly. And then like for me, I have this issue with my neck where it feels like something is swollen. And they're
Mhm.
saying, well, we can't find anything. I said, well, it's got to be something because something is making this swollen.
Right.
And they're saying, well, we can't find anything. We can't remove your thyroid. I said, okay, fine. But what is going on behind here? And
Hmm.
they're like, we don't know. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do here? I can't keep going on where my neck is hurting, where I never been allergic to seafood, never been allergic to peanuts before. Now I can't eat anything. My girlfriend said, let's go to Miyabi's. And I said, well, they're going to have to cut my stuff in the back because I remember I went out of town to Fort Lauderdale and, this
Hmm.
menu, mostly seafood. Well, they made me some strawberries. There's somehow, some way, the smell of it infused into those strawberries, and I ended up having a reaction to strawberries.
Yes. Huh.
And people don't think that when something is in the air that it doesn't infuse into your food, which in terms can cause allergies. And I tell people, I said there are millions of people that never had food allergies
Yep.
as adults. And I said, why is it all of a sudden now we're having all of these different allergies and all of these different things? And why is it that there's no cure for nerve damage or chronic pain? There's like, well, there's no cure for it. I said there has to be something that we can do to get to find the
Right.
cause of the pain. It's got to be something, whether it's a bulging disc, whether it's a hernia, it's got to be something. And then they say, well, we don't want to do it because we'll risk the fact of you're not being able to walk. And I said, well, there has to be other things we can do, natural
Yes.
ways that we can deal with the nerve damage of CRPS and chronic pain and cancer, because there have been many people around the world that have come up with cures for cancer, herpes, HIV, full-blown AIDS, and it's been natural ways of doing it. But in our country, it's
Absolutely.
about medications.
Yep. Yep. I mean, a year ago, we were in Madagascar, and my wife unfortunately slipped on the boat deck and broke her ankle. And we were 12 hours away from any place where you could get any kind of Western help, medical help. And the local person said, we've got a lady here who does two things. She mends broken bones and she turns breech babies around before any surgery or anything has to be done. And it's absolutely necessary here because we're all 12 hours removed from the nearest hospital. So I said, well, let's just go ahead and get her. She came over in 15 seconds. She poked, she prodded, and then she twisted and she straightened out the ankle. Now, it was broken badly enough that when we got home, she needed surgery and they needed to put in pins to hold it in place so that it wouldn't break again. But they were absolutely amazed. Every single doctor that saw her, all the orthopedic surgeons, all the radiologists, they looked at the bones and they said, we can't believe they're so well aligned. And they said, because of that, your surgery is just simply putting in the bones, putting in the screws to hold it in place. We're not going to have to break it and reset it. because in the week that it took for us to get back home and get the appointment, it had started to set. And they said,
Wow.
that's perfectly fine. It's healing itself. All we need to do is just put in this extra support so that it heals faster and it gets closer to what it would have been had you not broken it. And all from somebody who didn't speak a lick of English, spoke through a translator, and it's just the magic of her fingers. And we had in the group that we were traveling, we had three people that had some form of medical experience. One was a nurse, a sports nurse, sports medicine nurse. One was a gynecologist, and another was a general practitioner. And they said, all our years of medical training, medical school, and practice, we've never seen anything like this. And then they wanted to know, did somebody film that? Did somebody get a video of it? And I said, well, certainly not me. I was holding my wife's hand because she was in pain. And everybody else goes, oh, no, 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 we couldn't have done that.
Wow.
And so nobody got any video of it, but it's possible.
Hmm. It is. And that's
And
why I said, you know,
it's been, and here's the thing. We've been around humans for thousands of years. And we didn't have the kind of modern facilities, modern medicine that we have today.
yeah,
And we
true.
still managed. We got here. We
And
didn't
we
just all,
didn't,
it didn't all just die off. And actually, if you look at the animal world, animals don't just die off.
no,
I mean, they get sick and they get well and they don't see a doctor. They don't get any medication.
no, they keep going.
They
They
keep
keep
going.
migrating. They keep migrating and they continue to evolve and elevation.
Yep.
And the sad part about it is, we're slowly running out of animals
Hmm. We are.
because the world is slowly, just like they talked about the Amazon, that the Amazon and how the Amazon is getting smarter because they're building more.
Yep.
And you're seeing the ozone layer like this. You wouldn't think that it would be hot today. Not in November.
Hmm.
It used to be freezing cold where it used to be to the point when I went to Germany, snow was up to here. But
Yep.
now it's like the winter is like we may not even have a spring or a fall. We might just
Right.
have summer and winter, and that
Mhm.
might be it.
That's happening in a lot of places where the hot is getting hotter and the cold is getting colder, but the beautiful time of year is just disappearing.
Mm-hmm. That birth of a new flowers, new everything. It's like everything is getting pushed back. And now if you're looking at even the soil now, I was watching this documentary about organic food, and they was like, we can't even bring or organic food is coming from other countries because
Yep.
our soil is not where it's healthy enough to
Yes, it
grow
doesn't have enough
food.
nutrients. Yep. Well, if you look back to over 100 years ago, farmers would grow a crop, then they might grow it the next year, but then they would let the field sit fallow for another year before they grew a crop again, because they recognized that the nutrients are getting sucked out.
Hmm.
And so if they keep doing it over and over again, there's going to come a point in time when there's nothing left.
Yeah,
But if you do it a little bit and a little bit, and then you let the ground recover, it'll go for longer.
yeah,
And something, because we've got so many people on the planet, everybody's got to be fed. We've got to keep trying to make food as much as we can. No time to give poor Mother Earth a shot at resting.
yeah. That's why the hurricanes and tornadoes are going in completely different directions because
Yep.
now that heating that it's nothing but hot heat and it's not cooling down. So now we're having more tidal waves, more
Yep.
typhoons, more earthquakes, more. When I saw that red water and when I saw water going into the desert, I was like, oh, that ain't good at all.
Nope. Nope. Not at
There's a
all. And then
shift.
and then in Alaska, where the rivers are turning orange,
Mm-hmm.
water's not supposed to be orange.
No. Something's happening, and that's the
Something is
thing.
not right. And
Something's
and it,
happening.
and it's not orange because there's an industry near it. that's putting in some orange waste. It's turning orange by itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the sad part. And in our water, it's not, you go on a cruise and you go to the Bahamas and you're seeing all this beautiful water and it's blue and it's pure. And then you come back here and you go to the beaches, it's gray. And people are like, well, how is that possible? I say, well, if you look at why people are now being allergic to seafood, it's because all that oil, when they were digging in the oils and that big oil spill that happened, I think it was like 20,
Mhm.
30 years ago,
Mhm.
that gets into the water
Yep.
and it ends up getting onto the actual fish and
Yep.
everything, and then you're eating that, you
You're
know.
eating.
And
Yep.
then they're using chlorine to clear out the water because one day when I live in Florida, when we had that hurricane last year,
Mhm.
our water was black, and I was like, well, why is it black? But then I realized it goes through a filter because it's not clean. And
Yep.
that's why they tell you to use the filters and things like that. So there are so many different things that are causing our illnesses that was our fault.
Yep.
Is what we did, like they're messing with Antarctica. I'm like, if y'all don't leave Antarctica alone, because that could be part of the reason too. They're over there messing with Antarctica, which for the longest nobody could go on Antarctica.
No. No.
Now it's like it's slowly heating and that could have a lot to do with the weather being, what it is
Getting
as well.
exactly. Exactly. And you know, it's interesting because penguins are one of the only animals that don't fear humans. And it's because they've never really had to contact humans because we never went to Antarctica. There'd be one little expedition, 4 or 5 guys, maybe 10 people, but that's about it. And nobody hunted them. So they are very curious about humans. Comes in, come straight up to you.
Yeah, I do.
And, no other birds will do that.
And now you got everybody going over there.
Everybody.
Everybody going over there. Going to Antarctica. And I'm like, y'all need to leave well enough. Some things you just need to leave well enough alone because
Yep.
you're destroying. Even though yes, it's a lot of history, it's a lot of Antarctica. I mean Atlantis and all of these different things underground and mermaids and all of these different things. Yes, they're there, but it's a whole. We can only go down
You're not
but
getting in
so
there.
far.
Yep.
No, we're never gonna get down to that bottom of the ocean. We're never gonna get that far down, because in the end, you can only go but so far. It's just like you can only go but so high.
Yep.
So it's like that high below type of thing. And there's this balance. And I always tell people everything is balanced because you're gonna have the good, you're gonna have the evil, but you have to know both in order to
Right.
make that right decision, not only for your health and wellness, but I tell people that peace and tranquility and overall and letting go of that weight as far as that spiritual weight and understanding the environment. I said environment plays a very huge part, being able to maneuver through a world that is not being destroyed because of the world itself, but because of the people that feel like they just want to play God with everything.
Right.
Mhm.
That's exactly right.
Yep. So I'm really looking forward to doing this conversation with you because there's so many
Sounds good.
different directions that we can
Yes.
go.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I do this because I like to know how people's minds work.
Yes.
And most people don't do that. And I said, I like when I have this, and everybody who I've had conversations with and who I posted loved it because they was like, I never had someone that really wanted to understand what I do and really try to give me the floor to be able to do it. I said, yeah,
Yes.
I want to give you the floor because again, anything with healing and recovery is multiple. It's not just about what you eat, how much sleep you
No.
get.
No.
No, it's environment, it's so much scientific things that play a part in so many things that because of the way the world is, everything is based on money. It's everything's based on things that really don't contribute to our health and wellness. And that's why I wanted to do these podcasts because It's about solutions that we can do the rest of our lives and really be able to say, okay, we can do these the rest of our lives. And
Hmm.
even though we may have to adjust, which we have to do because the body is one of the things, it gets used to something, either it's going to reject it, either it's going to accept it, or it's either going to be addicted to it. So
Right.
it's just one of those things where you have to, you can do the same thing every day. Like Dr. Michael Diamond, he said, you can do the same, eat the same thing every day, but you may have to change certain things. You may have to change
Yep.
the products that you buy. You may have to, the products change. The
Yep.
workout may
Absolutely.
change a little bit as far as what time you do things, those adjustments, but everything you do has to remain the same. Your principles and what you stand for and what you acknowledge and consume, your five senses present to
Yes.
you, and making sure you do the research and really look at everything, the good and the bad, and really look at the balance between the two. I say everything is dimension and balance. And I said, if people don't understand that, then you don't know quantum physics at all. Because quantum physics plays a whole lot when it comes down to the manipulation of things and how the things that you may think are one way. One thing about quantum physics, it's going to change everything because it can be shaped in so many different ways and molded into so many different things. So you may think that one thing you may think may be correct, and you can be completely wrong.
Yep.
So that's definitely the way I want to go with this and the fact of the matter of that. Because the
Okay.
way of this, I think I know everything. You don't. I say,
No,
even at 70
that's right.
years old, Beethoven and all these people were still finding new ways as far as music,
Right.
finding new ways of developing things. Because in the end, our kids are gonna grow up, they're gonna do things differently, they're gonna discover things because now they have social media. We didn't have social media back then.
Yep.
So we didn't
Yep.
have all this information. They do. So they can make better choices and better decisions than we can because of it.
Exactly. Exactly. And my own life philosophy has always been the day you stop learning is the day you discover you're 6 feet under.
Yeah. That is so true. So I am really looking forward to doing this with you.
Sounds
And
good.
whatever
Um,
day and time works for you, that would
are
be great.
where can I schedule that?
You can email me what date. Okay, y'all, I'm here. Thank y'all for joining me for this episode. This is the podcast, and these are how my pre conversations go. I just want people to understand that when I do these, if they sound like something that I feel could have been used as podcast, I will let you guys hear it. And the reason I want you guys to hear the pre conversations, depending on how they go, is because I want you to get an idea of not only the banter between me and the person that's having the conversation, but what the topics are going to be about. Because if that's just a pre conversation, imagine what the actual conversation is going to be like. Plus, it gives you guys a chance to get introduced to the actual individuals. So that way, when we do the podcast, I ain't got to worry about go ahead and introduce yourself, or I don't have to do this, introduction, because the pre conversation itself is going to tell you everything about the person. So that way, when we get into it, we don't have to go into those introductions because all you got to do is go and find the pre podcast conversation and it will tell you everything about the person. Because when I try to do introductions and then you're trying to read the introduction, it's kind of hard. Whereas if you do the pre conversations, it's like a pre-conversation. Sometimes it can be 30 minutes, sometimes it can be an hour. It just depends on how the conversation goes and how much time the person has. Sometimes it can be an hour because the conversation flows so naturally. And the one thing that every person said about me that they liked was the fact that I am so easy to talk to, which makes them open up a lot more, which you get to see their personalities,
You also get to see their knowledge, but you also get to see who they are. Now, the one that I'm doing for Peter Seward, the actual podcast, you guys will be hearing tomorrow at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. You guys will be able to hear it. So I'm really excited about that, to be able to let you guys hear it. But I realize now that I have to stay on wherever I'm at to make sure that there's no problems or anything like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm loving doing the podcast. I'm loving doing the conversations. They really are interesting. Um, but I still be doing my other podcast, but I have one on Tuesday with Miss Melissa Barnes, and you guys got to see her when I posted hers. So we will be doing hers on Tuesday, and I'll be posting that one on. Is it going to be this Sunday or next Sunday? I don't know. I'm not sure because I know I gotta do Mr. Peters. I think I posted his on my podcast. I know for you guys, you're probably gonna hear it. My vocal podcast, I got one on the 30th, and so it's probably gonna be in two parts. So, um, I'm definitely excited about doing it. So it was definitely a great conversation. So hers was done on my podcast on the 18th. So either I'm going to post it on the 30th, or either I'm going to post it on the that Monday, because I have the pre-conversation. So I don't know. I'm thinking about moving the date up, but we will see. So I try to give a little bit of a distance between podcasts, but yeah, it'll probably be two. I don't know yet. And then I have one that I've got to do December 1st, and then December 9th. I got a pre-conversation next week. So my podcast is being pretty booked and busy when it comes to podcasting. There is someone that I'm thinking about doing when it comes to traveling. I'm thinking about doing that as well, and I got to text her to see if she want to do it. But I'm really excited about where these podcasts are going, and the people that I'm meeting. And eventually I want to do a summit and a webinar where I bring all of them back and we actually can get them all in, and trying to set it up. So yeah, I'm really, really excited about everybody I'm meeting. They're great conversations, but I never thought in a million years that I would be doing podcasting, not alone doing conversations. So I thank every single person that reached out to me, every single person that wanted to do the podcast. Some people that I talked to will probably be reaching back out because some of them said they were going to be busy to the beginning of the year. Mr. Peter Stewart, the one I'm doing it for tomorrow, we will be doing a part two to the podcast that I'm going to be debuting tomorrow. So I'm really excited about, these conversations. And who knows, these people may come back. So you might get some part twos because they really enjoyed the conversations. And the good thing about it is I can always reach out to them at any time to do a where are they now? What are they doing now? So that's why I always leave the conversations open, because they can always be a part two. So I love that, because I can always reach back out to them to do another conversation. And if there's anybody that you want me to bring back, please let me know, and I will definitely bring them back. I definitely will. Um, but on you guys on YouTube and you guys on my other channel, I appreciate you guys. And don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button to receive notifications on my videos. I really appreciate y'all. I do. I just am so truly blessed, because I never thought in a million years that God would be leading me to doing podcasting, to me doing coaching, to build something that can help so many people. And every person that comes on my podcast has a different perspective about healing and recovery. And these conversations have been so monumental. So yeah, I am trying to be the next Jay Shetty. I ain't gonna lie. I'm trying to be The next Jay and Ryan is another guy. So I'm trying to get there, y'all. I'm trying to get to the point where I start, having conversations with celebrities. That's my next thing. So I'm really excited about that. But I just wanted to just debut this with you guys, let you guys hear it, and I appreciate you guys for joining me. And tomorrow we'll be doing Peter Stewart, so I'm excited about that. And then we'll be doing Melissa's on Tuesday, and then I have another one pre-conversation. Can't wait for that. And then this person, Mr. Raul, we will be doing the podcast probably after Thanksgiving. So yeah, I'm pretty much booked and busy. And then the first of the year, I have somebody that'll be reaching out to me after the first of the year. And then I have a few people that might be reaching back. So now that these podcasts are being debuted, who knows? There will be more to come. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys for joining me. I'm your host, Goddess Asha Miriyama. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button to receive notifications of my videos on all of my channels. And with that being said, I will see you guys later. Bye, y'all.